Welcome back to the last episode of the Ignited podcast for the season.
I know.
Wow. I mean, we have the bonus one coming out after this, interviewing Alfie Cohn, but this is like the last official one that Brittany and I are doing for a little bit. Ah!
I know. Oh man. But like I loved it. I love this. I think it's so much fun. But now it's the end of the year. Like I'm so tired.
Yes, I
I
think we're
feel
finishing at the perfect time.
teacher tired. Yeah.
And it's another layer though, because it's teacher tired mixed with teacherpreneur tired,
Yeah. No, yeah.
which is a whole different thing.
Oh,
Quite the
yeah.
recipe right there.
It is. It's a whole level.
Yeah.
A whole level of tired.
Well, for this episode, we're going to be kind of recapping the whole book and what we've learned from it. So, we're going to do a summary, of course. This one's going to be of us summarizing the entire book. So, it's probably going to go as you were anticipating. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be fine.
I think it's going to be fun.
Look at the table of contents and use that to guide us.
I'm just going to scroll through pages and stop randomly.
Okay, that's a strategy right there. All right, I'm going to use my table of contents strategy.
All right.
You want to go first, you said?
Sure. Shoot.
I don't know.
Summary stretches.
That sure lacked a little bit of confidence over there, Brittany.
Maybe I should do, because I had the Kindle version and I love the Kindle version. If you don't know, if you do the Kindle version of a book, like you can quickly find everything that you highlight. And this is like, I'm not sponsored by Kindle, but it's totally
You should be.
I should be.
That is nice.
Give me free books.
And like the Control F feature, is that something on the Kindle?
I think you can do it if you use Kindle on your desktop.
Yeah.
No, I can search for a word just by using like the
search bar right there. See, that's the most beautiful thing ever. I want to just Control F my life all the time.
I know.
It's one of the best inventions. Yeah, whenever I show the middle schoolers that Control F exists, it blows their mind.
Right.
There are a couple of things, and I show them that. Center alignment. That one's game changing for them.
What's
the tab
that?
button. You know when you make your text centered?
Oh.
There's a time in a child's life when they think that you just hit space.
Yeah.
And that's typically broken with my class in 6th grade.
Is it Control or like Command I or Control I?
Well, I guess on my MacBook it would be Command F, but on a regular computer it's Control F.
No, to center text.
Oh, to center text? No, Control I would be to italicize them.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Huh.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go into Word.
Experiment.
Figure it
Our
out.
Next hobby.
Memorizing keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah, keyboard shortcuts. Hey, that's a thing though. I think you get a little bit of street cred with the kids if you know the keyboard shortcuts.
Oh yeah. When I teach them like Illustrator, or Canva, just Control Z blows their mind.
Oh, definitely. Or Control A.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay. So,
you ready?
Yes. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's just
All right. Lights, camera, action.
Okay. So, Alfie Cohn's entire book, Punished by Rewards, was all about how external rewards or external motivation, incentive systems, how they decrease intrinsic motivation, how they harm creativity and problem solving, how they can reduce the behaviors that we want to see, like pro-social behaviors, like being kind, sharing. He went through study after study, whether it was in a school or at the workplace, of how external motivators, reward systems, merit pay how all of those systems actually get the opposite effect of what we actually want, which is intrinsically motivated students, pro-social individuals, whether it's students or employers or coworkers. He talked about what can we do instead of using rewards, and we can work collaboratively with our students or our employees. We can make sure that the content of what we're asking them to do is interesting and motivating in itself. And collaborate. It was 3 C's: collaboration, content, and choice. Is it choice?
I think so.
And so then we can offer choices, which is autonomy.
Beautiful. That was just
That wasn't bad.
skimming
Right?
through your notes.
No, that was all in my head.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like I lecture every time I see a teacher. I'm like, excuse me, do you know rewards are bad? Would you like to hear about it?
Do you see the wearing? If you can watch this right now instead of looking at the Spotify or listening to the Spotify audio, the wear and tear on this book.
I know.
Do
you have time? Sometimes. Do you have time?
Yes. You want to
talk? So why rewards are bad? Oh man. I have a coach. I have a teacher I'm like always in their classroom. I'm just like, I can't use his name, but I know if he listens to this, he'll know who I'm talking about. They're like, if you just gave him more autonomy. He's like, dude, it's not that easy. Okay.
Or is it?
I know. I mean, you just have to be comfortable with it, I feel like.
Yeah.
Accept the fact that,
you can't control 25 other people in a room.
Right.
At a time.
Okay, ready?
Let's do it. All right. So in Punished by Rewards by Alfie Kohn, the entire book examined the effect that rewards have on students psychologically, their motivation, and just really their entire being, and how it affects them in school and outside of school. So the book starts off by talking about the theory of behaviorism, how it came to be, about B.F. Skinner, and then it talks about how ethical rewarding children is for their behavior and how it actually makes it so you're kind of treating a kid like a pet if you are rewarding them for their behavior. And then looks at how effective is it? Like, does it actually work to reward students? And is it actually working to produce what we want to have it produce, which is like good members of society? And the evidence shows that it doesn't. And how rewards actually fail because they punish students, they rupture relationships, they ignore reasons, and then they discourage risk-taking in the classroom. And how this effect not only translates to the classroom, but it also can be seen in the workplace if you have any rewards incentive programs there. Even more so than that, though, rewards also can affect how students view their grades and how praise comes into the formula. So praise can be seen as reward in and of itself if it's not done in a certain way, and how grades can also be seen as an extrinsic reward, which is going to reduce the desire of the person to demonstrate whatever we're trying to demonstrate or have them demonstrate by giving them that extrinsic reward or validation. So ultimately, the things we have to do are to give kids choice, to create opportunities for them to collaborate, and then I have to find out the final C: content. Content is engaging for them. All right.
Yeah, actually, that was excellent.
Thank you. I used the table of contents for that one, so not as impressive as you just off of your brain doing that one.
I don't know. That was pretty impressive.
Well, I wanted to talk about something that I was thinking while I was summarizing about rewards ignoring reasons and about like punishments ignoring reasons. Because Britt and I were talking about like what are the points that have really stuck with us the most from doing this book club study. And that's one of the things I've been a lot more aware of lately. Like even just seeing kids, because I've spoken on here about how my school system is punitive, and then the kids get a point, and if they have 7 points at the end of the week, then they get this consequence. And so I was talking to a kid who had an issue with a teacher, and they said that, like, it's fine, I'll just take the point for it, like it's not worth it. And I'm like, but hang on, because taking this point doesn't actually solve anything, right? It's not fixing anything. Like, what kind of person do you want to be known for? And they're like, well, I want to be a leader, I want to be compassionate. And I was like, yeah, did you show that with this teacher? And they were like, no. I'm like, okay, so that's just going to exist out there, and if that's what you want to have happen, that's your choice. But if you don't want to be known for that with that person, then you have the opportunity to go say, hey, that was not my best moment, I wanted to do this, and this is what I meant. And you can kind of clear the air. And I gave the illustration, I should post about this too. I gave the illustration of how if you are at a table and then you drop a glass off and you break it, if you just sweep it under a rug and pretend it's not there, is it actually going to go away? No, it's still going to be there. It's going to be a lump. You actually have to get down and pick it up. And it might be messy and you might not like it, but that's the way that you repair something, by actually getting your hands dirty and picking it back up. And so thinking about that situation and thinking about rewards, I think it gives such a false sense of security and answers and solutions, because it can feel like you are doing something by taking this thing away, or by not giving them this reward or this prize. It is ultimately doing absolutely nothing.
There was a really good example, and I think it might have been in the afterword, where daycares started to charge parents for coming in late to pick up their kids. And it actually had the opposite effect of what they wanted, because people were coming in late, but they were more remorseful when it wasn't seen as a transaction, but it was imposing on people's time. But once they started charging, it became a transaction. And so the parents were just like, oh, well, I'll just pay for it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It feels like a trade-off almost.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, it's when you take the humanity out of it and you start to, I don't know, create like transactions, like making I don't know, making, being nice to somebody a transaction by rewarding that behavior.
Yeah.
Like, it's taking the humanity out of it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why people act in such inhumane ways.
I know. I just had somebody, I think they commented on one of my posts, and they said, like, like, my stress from teaching comes from my parents, or the parents and the students, not treating me like I'm human. And like, I have so much empathy, because it sucks to be dehumanized. It sucks. But when we think about how we treat our kids, it's very dehumanizing. The amount of control we impose on them, the lack of trust, the lack of autonomy and control we give them, and then we reward them, and like, we're training them as if they're pets. Like, that's very dehumanizing. So they're learning from a very young age, how do you treat other people, and everything's everything's a transaction, pretty much.
Yeah,
like, what can this person do for me? And it's not humanizing. And so we're going to be treated, they're going to dehumanize us. That's exactly what we're teaching them to do.
It's such a curve, and I'm sure you're going to see it next year too, because you started off with rewards and you kind of moved away from them this year. So I don't know if is your school going to still continue PBIS next year? Do you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do. Give kids control when they're not used to it. It's very hard, but I really because I went full control. How long ago was that when I stopped doing the?
I feel like it was in February, maybe.
Okay, so, and it's been going kind of like back and forth until about a month ago. So it was February that I stopped using the point system. And then it was March. We're in May. So
Mhm.
March, I really stopped doing points. And then about April, I was like, okay, this isn't going to work unless I really go full autonomy. Like, if I'm really going to try this, I have to go full autonomy.
Mhm.
And now that class is pretty much full autonomy with me having to teach the standards, like having to get content out there, but they choose the vehicle of which I give that content to them. But it's not easy.
How does
I
that
don't know.
work? How's that look?
Well, I feel like for the first, like right now, we're just figuring it out. Like the first 2 weeks, I feel like it was them testing on whether I was serious or not, or whether I was going to take it away. And then they realized that I was serious. So now they're easing into like the transition of my room because I teach
Mhm.
art, right? So they come into my room. They go with their soft start. They completely like are shaping what they want that to look like, knowing that it's to help them regulate. So it's been a lot of conversation on, okay, this is what soft start looked like, and that's like 7 minutes at the beginning of class. They choose an activity that helps them regulate themselves,
Mhm.
and it's supposed to be quiet. They like I asked them, okay, should we do level 0 voice, or should you guys be able to talk? Some people said level 0, some people said talking. The majority said that they should be able to talk. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll let you guys talk.
Mhm.
Did not work at all. So then I came back afterwards, after the soft start, and I was like, okay, how did that go? Do you guys feel regulated? And then, like, through discussion, they came to the conclusion that we shouldn't be talking. It's not regulating. That takes a lot of self-control, but I'm seeing more and more kids choose not to talk
Mhm.
because they came up with that conclusion on their own. It wasn't
Yeah.
something imposed upon them. Then now, like I'm 4 weeks into it. Now during my instruction, I'm, short bursts of instruction, and then they play with the skill that I taught them. And now I'm like, okay, so and so needs help. Is anybody available to help them? And kids will like run over and help
Mhm.
them. And I'm not dictating that. Like, they choose to help them or they choose not to, but
Yeah.
they always help. It's just like they feel good. The class ends well. But it is the transition from going to another classroom that's high authority to the fully autonomous room. That's not easy.
Tell me about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how I feel too in the middle school.
Yeah,
You
it's middle
know?
schoolers.
Yeah. It's a process trying to figure that out with them. So, um, we started this for a reason. We're talking about like going in next year
Yeah.
and then like the difference that you see in the kids. Oh, and kind of like how you have to rewire their brain with them. Like when the kids
Mm-hmm.
come to me and they start taking on leadership roles, they're like, if you don't do this, I'm going to put in a point for you. And I'm like, nope, we don't do that. And they're
Yeah.
like, but what? And I'm like, no, like talk to them. We have to figure out what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like unlearning to then
Mm-hmm.
learn new, which is so wasted. It's such a wasted time, so much wasted energy and time.
I know.
If we could just teach kids how to communicate,
Um,
that's our next t-shirt design right there too. Teach kids how
yeah.
to communicate.
How to communicate. That's authentic to them. Like, that's so important too. Like, I get they can't be cussing up a storm. I like that's not how you communicate. But if that's where that child is, like if that's their language that they use when they're anxious, I don't take it personally.
No, I think when they're anxious or if they're having a moment,
Yeah.
like, or honestly, like most of the time, I don't take it personally.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. It was funny. I was telling my students about that today. Um, and I was like, 5 years ago, you guys would not have recognized me as a teacher. They were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, now how, like, if I see your heads down, what do I say to you? They're like, you check in and see if we're doing okay. And I was like, yeah, but 5 years ago, well, guess what I would have assumed? And they were like, that we were having a tough day. And I was like, nope, that you were being disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, what?
Yeah.
Taken aback. I'm like, yeah, like that's a lens
Mm-hmm.
change. Like you have to change the way you look at people, and you can.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what we were talking about. We are talking about like viewing things in a different light. But it's true.
Mm-hmm. Talking to the kids is the most powerful thing we could do.
And all the time too. Like even
Mhm.
when things start to go sideways and you feel like you got to be like, I'm going to take away this, I'm going to take away that. Just be like, hey, what's going
Mhm.
on?
Yep.
Here's what I'm noticing. What are you noticing? What can I do to support you?
Yeah.
There's like, I want to make like a whole formula for teachers, like the formula. I have the hallway conversation flow chart. I
Yeah.
want to make just like the whole class conversation flow chart.
Discussion. For real.
Yeah. Because once you take the emotion out of it and you're just trying to get curious, figure out what's going on, it makes everything feel so much better. You can solve stuff so quickly.
Yeah. I actually, well, I have an problem solving interview questions. It's on my email list right now.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's that, like, how do you talk to a kid with curiosity to solve a problem? Like, what questions should you ask? But
Yeah.
like, I think like that's the most important lesson I've learned. I feel like from going fully autonomous and reading this book, it's like mostly all of the problems can be talked through with your
Yeah.
students if you're smart about it, and you're not angry, like you're coming in
If you're
at it.
regulated in the
Yeah,
conversation.
right. And
Mhm.
you're really curious and you want them to you want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
Um,
You're genuine.
yeah. And I think that could solve so many problems if people knew how to do that well. Should
There's
a
so many
workshop
things. There's so many things.
should host a workshop on how to talk to our kids.
Right? Hey.
Not get pissed.
Brittany and I were talking about like different things we want to do over the summer for you guys. So maybe we could do something like that.
Yeah.
But I always say to the students, it's okay to feel angry or I feel frustrated, but it doesn't give me the right to treat you disrespectfully.
Right.
So I need to take a minute and watch myself, regulate
Mhm.
myself, and I'm going to address you.
Yeah.
And like decoupling, having an emotion and having an outburst.
Mhm.
That's a lot right there. That's a really tight knot.
Decoupling.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard that before.
Of the word decoupling?
No.
Oh, I think it's a word.
I think it's a word. I mean,
think it is.
yeah.
It's a good word.
Decoupling. It is
Yeah.
a good word. Like decouple.
Mm-hmm.
Decouple that ish. Yeah.
Exactly. Next t-shirt design.
I know. We really need to write all these down.
We do. Maybe for our second season, we can also launch our Ignited merch.
Yes.
That'd be
Oh.
fun. I think throughout the course of this book, one of the most conflicting things for me has been grades. And probably the hardest thing has been praise. And I know that you've been experimenting with autonomy. I've been experimenting with grades. And it has not been like, this is not a strong like study. Like they're not, what's not good methodology in this one.
Yeah.
But on our school server, you can choose to let kids see what they got correct or what they didn't get correct in assignments. And so I took that feature off. So now they just take their exit tickets and they can't tell what they did. or like
Ah.
what score they got. And I told them, like, if you still want to see, like, come over to me and I can show you it. But most of them don't ask,
Mm-hmm.
which is
I like that.
interesting. But it's also like I have a hard time with wrapping my mind around this one because I do feel like it's very hard because you have to care about academics. I think it's so important to be able to, like, to care about school and to do well in school.
Mm-hmm.
And even if grades are not the way to have a ton of knowledge, grades are the way to resources oftentimes.
I know.
And resources are the way to social mobility.
Yep.
So it gets very tricky, and I want to do more research and like really nail down an opinion on that one.
Yeah.
But it's tough to navigate, and then the praise element too. Trying to be mindful about the praise comments that we make.
Yeah.
That one's a doozy.
I think now I'm so cognizant of when I say like a generalized good job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what kind of blows my mind, like I was talking to a teacher today about how patronizing it is when we reward kids for doing silly ass things like standing in line correctly. Like that's just so patronizing. And the teacher who like was like patronizing. I'm like, well, how would you feel if somebody of authority came into your classroom and said, wow, you're not on your phone. Good job for not being on your phone. Here's a Starbucks card for not being on your phone. Like, we're gonna be like, oh God, really? Like,
that's the bar?
Yeah. Like, oh man.
It's like a bar you can hopscotch over.
I know, like maybe I should be at a different school.
Yeah.
Like, they're that impressed over that. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, we have to be careful about how we're praising our kids because it can come off backhanded.
Mm-hmm.
It does come off backhanded.
And like your tone makes a huge difference in everything too. Like I want to make some videos about tone and just saying things and talking about the tone that you use and how it could be received.
Yeah.
Tone is huge. I want to share a quote. And then we probably should start wrapping it up.
Yeah, I've got to go pick up my daughter.
Yeah, but one of the quotes I really resonated with is from page 231, and it says, "Do we really want to pursue an adversarial relationship with a child? If not, then it makes no sense to choose our response with an eye to preventing him from winning a contest for power, because there is no contest for power. Likewise, we need to ask why we believe children naturally revel in nasty, selfish, antisocial behavior and desist only because they fear what will happen to them. The evidence says otherwise. In my view, there are two fundamentally different ways one can respond to a child who does something wrong. One is to impose a punitive consequence. Another is to see the situation as a teachable moment, an opportunity to educate or to solve a problem together. The response here is not, you've misbehaved, now here's what I'm going to do to you, but something has gone wrong. What can we do about it? And I think that is kind of like the synopsis of the takeaway I would want somebody to walk away with who's done our book club with us. It's all about problem solving.
Yeah. So my quote's like a line.
Hey, okay, so
yeah, all right. So my quote, which is like lives in my head rent free, right? It has stayed with me, is that people do not like things done to them. When I read that, I'm like, damn, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could find it, but honestly, I feel like I could summarize the context of where it was or what he was talking about. And it was, when you're implementing these new practices or you're implementing a new strategy, tell your students, talk to them about it, get their feedback. People don't like things done to them. So even if you're using autonomy, like that was my biggest mistake when I started. I didn't really talk to my kids. I just said, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
But now, like when I did when I took away the points, I didn't really talk to them. I talked to them and I told them what was going on, but I didn't really get their feedback. I didn't give them a lot of choice. I was like, no, this is what I'm doing. It came from a place of authority.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't autonomy, even though it looked like autonomy.
Yeah.
So now it's a lot of discussion. We hold collaborative discussion, like collaborative conversations. Their say is as heavy as mine, as long as it's safe, like,
Mhm.
and as long as I can teach, because I have to get my content out, right?
Yeah.
And that is full autonomy.
Yeah, and like saying, hey, this is what we have to work with.
Yeah, this is our these
Mhm.
are our restraints. How are we going to get there?
And that's just good life skills too, like navigating problems.
Yeah.
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 Well, this is a good book. 5
It was
stars.
excellent. 5 stars.
Much like our podcast, which you should rate as well and give it 5 stars on Spotify.
Yes. Oh my gosh. If we get a 5-star review, that would be cool.
We have 2. I went in and checked over the weekend. We have 2 ratings right now.
Shut up.
I know. We're making it big.
That's crazy. I mean, when we first started, like, we were like, how does this work?
Yes, I think we actually made the podcast like 3 different times on Spotify.
Oh yeah, probably.
But hey, this
Look at
has
us
been,
now.
yeah, I know. Look at this now. Look at us figuring out Restream. Still not starting it on time, but that's okay.
We're teachers.
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah.
So what would your action tip be for people who are listening to this podcast?
Talk to your kids.
Yeah.
Have discussions as much as possible.
Yeah. That's really it. And that would be kind of mine. I might even add like get curious.
Yes. Ooh, that's good. Yeah, get curious. Talk to your kids.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this is our last sign off then, Brittany.
Oh my gosh.
Till season 2.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Do we know what book we're gonna do?
No, we'll have to poll people.
Okay. That's what we're gonna do next.
Yeah, but we will have some events happening over like the late spring, early summer.
Yeah.
And definitely over the summer too. So follow the Ignited Podcast Instagram account. We'll be posting things there. And also on both of our own social medias. Mine is A.S. Frashland and Brittany's Teaching to a Riot. We'll be posting all of the programs and things we got going on. There's going to be a lot of good stuff coming to you this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then next week, our last episode with our Alfie Kohn interview will go live on Spotify. So that one will not be on Instagram, but it will be on Spotify. Yeah.
Yes.
So you can tune into that. And then until next time, I'm Ashlyn. We are the Ignited Podcast, and we hope this episode left you feeling remoralized
and re-energized.
All right, until next time.